jungle boy. You need to check out All Elite Podcast.
We are the Lucha Brothers, and you listen All Elite Podcast.
You know why?
Hey, this is Cole Cabana. Check out the All Elite Podcast. All Elite.
This is Sammy Guevara, the best ever. And you, yes, you, need to go check out All Elite Podcast.
What's up, man? It's the After Machine, the Swole Ring, Mr. GMSI himself, the man with the huge F in arms, Brian Cage. You're watching the All Elite Podcast. Who better?
Welcome back, All Elite family, to another exciting edition of the All Elite Podcast. As always, I'm your host, All Elite Andy, and I'm joined by my boy, Big Match AJ, my wonderful co-host. We are here on another Thursday afternoon after another interesting episode of Dynamite. How you doing, AJ?
Doing good. I got a film I worked on premiering on a film festival tonight/tomorrow, so I'm excited.
That is awesome, dude. I'm so excited to hear that. Like we've talked about many times on this show, your filmmaking and all that stuff that you have worked on in terms of the growth over the last year and a half. It's something we've literally documented. You'll be able to go back to our first episodes and look at where you were in terms of even that point. So that's really fun. I'm excited for you there. Last night was the Cypher for a podcast that I do for Upstate Aesthetic. It was a really, really good time. We had some great submissions. We had a lot of viewers. It was a great time over on Facebook. If you're into hip-hop, check it out. It's a lot of fun. But now it is time to talk about AEW Dynamite, which was also a lot of fun last night. I had a great time watching the show, and it appears quite a few people did. The ratings were pretty solid, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, comparing to what it's up against, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that was the big thing. Big Joseph, if you're a fan of the podcast, you've heard of him a couple times, you'd know that he was joking on us a little bit about how AEW's numbers slipped, but there was so much going on last night in terms of just news. There was a sports game, the MLB.
Series.
Man, I sound like such a nerd. I actually know about the World Series, but yeah, there was a sports game going on. There was some MLB playoffs, so it was up against some stiff competition. Plenty of people tuned in. I think they provided a very entertaining show. So
Definitely.
I mean, what's there to really be disappointed about? I mean, some people always find stuff to nitpick. We've found plenty of stuff to nitpick with AEW a time
And
or
I'm
two.
sure we will tonight.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Not every show is perfect, but I think that they had a pretty solid outing. I'm not gonna lie. I had an entertaining time. I had to catch it after, so it wasn't the live viewing because I was, like I said, I was doing the Cypher, but actually tuning into the show afterwards on TiVo was a lot of fun. And we started that show off with, well, there's a couple other news notes we should go over before I jump into the show. See, I just want to talk about the show so much, AJ. But let's talk about the Alex Reynolds situation a little bit.
Yeah.
During his match, the Fatal 4-Way match, and we'll talk about the matchup here later on in the show, but there was just a moment where there was just a spot gone wrong. I think we've seen this spot plenty of times.
I forget who, he leg dropped him and he landed right on his fucking head. And the dude was out. And he was not moving. Blade had to pull him over just to get the tag in so they could get him out of the ring. It was kind of sloppy because Rick Knox really didn't go over to him at all.
Yeah, that was the one takeaway that I necessarily had in terms of like, come on, Rick, do something. But it was just a hairy situation for everyone. I don't really blame anyone in that. I think it was Isaiah Cassidy who hit the leg drop. I would have liked to have seen him check on in some way Reynolds. I know they're in the middle of a match, but we've seen it plenty of times where experienced wrestlers are like, yo, you good? Because you could see that Cassidy was hurt. He had very clearly just dropped his thigh on dude's face. So maybe just like when you're going for the cover or something, be like, yo, and then when you realize he's knocked out, I mean, it was a spur-of-the-moment situation. You can't really blame anyone for that. The good news is that Reynolds was seen walking to the back, which is, again, a positive note. They had Cody Rhodes come out to check on him. Quite a few important people within the company checking on him to make sure that he was safe, which is always important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was like really in the climax of the match. A lot was going on. There were a lot of people in the ring, and to that end, I don't blame Rick Knox for not being on top of his game. You were managing like what was it? 12 people. It was a lot. So
8 man.
I don't know. Yeah, 8 man. Sorry, 12. Anyways, but it was a lot going on, and it sucks, but I'm glad he was able to walk out. I'm hoping he doesn't have a concussion or anything like that. He killed it in the match out of John Silver. Everybody looked fire in that match. We'll talk about that more.
Yes, absolutely, we will. And so that is good news that he is doing good. I'm happy to hear that. Some other good news is that apparently they have taken the hint from us, maybe not listening to us, but something we've asked for multiple times, in Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy doing something at the Hardy compound. So it's not confirmed yet, but they are hinting to it. People have speculated that over the last couple of weeks. So that's a positive, right? I mean, that's something to be excited about. Finally utilizing that platform. I think it's late, but better late than never.
You know, I was thinking about it, and when the COVID thing happened, we were like, man, they should utilize the Hardy compound. They should utilize the Hardy compound. But I was thinking about it more, and I was like, it takes a big crew to shoot something good. Like, you can use a small crew and shoot something shitty. But if you want to produce something on the quality that Hardy did before in TNA, you're going to need a lot of guys, a lot of camera guys, a lot of pyro guys, a lot of crazy shit going on.
Pyro guys, AJ, they were shooting fireworks. Give me a break.
I mean, they lit the big Hardy thing on fire.
No, you're right. I'm just playing.
But you need a lot to get the camera angles right, especially if it's going to be a cinematic match. Like, just coming from a filmmaking perspective, it's not a small job, even though it's outdoors. So I was thinking, like, now that, you know, things are more lax, you have more room to bring in more guys, do a 2-day shoot, get everything right, and make it as good as it needs to be for AEW. So I was thinking, you know, maybe I was in the wrong mindset thinking, man, they need to do it now. They need to do it now. Maybe it was good that they waited because they might not have been able to do it justice.
Yeah, fair enough. And something that was done justice, I think, last night's musical segment with Chris Jericho and MJF, it not only got a thumbs up from Alex Bonillo, an actor, a Tony Award producer, but it was given the green light by the Frank Sinatra estate, according to PWI Insider. Or PW Insider, I should say. So this was a very interesting segment. It got the internet a buzz. They either loved it or hated it, and we will talk about it when we run down the show. But it's cool to see just the extra step, I guess, that went beyond it, and the fact that the people who know about this kind of stuff were entertained by it. So why are wrestling fans so worried about it?
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I understand the argument that, like, oh, it's too silly or over the top. And to an extent, at the beginning, I was feeling that. I was like, is this stupid? I can't tell. But I loved it, man. I couldn't help but love it. We'll talk about it more, though, like you said.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun, but just the extra news bit of that. And overall, it's an interesting segue from the Hardy compound situation, because while it's not the exact same thing, it was definitely its own little cinematic situation, which I thought was a lot of fun. We already touched on the ratings, but AEW did 750,000, so not the best number ever, obviously a little bit of a dip, but we already kind of covered why. So again, we don't really get paid per rating, so it's not really a big deal to us, but it is something always worth noting and talking about. And it's really, we at one point it was like 600,000, 650, and that's where I was really like, not even as like as a fan, kind of worried about that situation. But 750, even 650, I'm not too worried. If they were in the 500,000 territory, maybe it's something to worry about. But I mean, it's not like we got 644,000 viewers. That would be something to really stress about. If there's any shows that are wrestling shows getting 644,000 viewers on USA, I might be a little bit worried. But nah, I think wrestling's fine, man. Wednesdays are great. There's a lot of great wrestling on Wednesdays. So
for sure.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how Wardlow picked up the win over Jungle Boy in about 8.5 minutes, which I thought was a really good Wardlow match for me. It wasn't nothing special necessarily. They kept it pretty simple, but it was a good match.
It was a good match. It made sense, which I like, because, like, we were in the position, everybody was, of like, man, maybe Jungle Boy is gonna, you know, do the underdog thing and beat the big guy. But it makes sense that this guy who has such a weight and such a height advantage would kind of dominate over the match with Jungle Boy. And if anything, I would have given it maybe like 2 more minutes, like give him as long as he did with Jericho. But that's my only gripe. That's my only nitpick. And it's not even a big deal. Wardlow looked great. He looked like a star. He did 2 F10s, one outside the ring into the ring, then another where he just spun him around like a motherfucker. Jungle Boy, he put up a good effort. He looked good doing
Solid effort, kid.
It makes sense that he would not win this, and I'm more excited, I think, to see, like, now that you've built Wardlow up so well, to where he looks like such a monster, and he dominated Jungle Boy, the guy we saw who went the distance with Jericho. It'll be a lot better for Hangman to face him because it makes it more of an interesting match. Because Hangman's not huge. I mean, he's strong, but he's not like gonna, do the fall away slam on the guy. And if he does, that would be dope as hell. So it's more interesting to me, I think, this way.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that it was a solid match. Again, there was nothing crazy about it, but they did a good job at telling the short story there. I do agree that maybe he could have gotten a couple more minutes in there, but I think that's real nitpicky because we're not the only ones, but there's not a whole lot of people necessarily looking at the exact time. So I'm sure 8.5 minutes feels about the same as 10 minutes to whoever's tuning in. Nonetheless, solid match to open up the show, and the open of AEW is an important placement on the card. That is without a doubt. So they did a solid showing here. I think Jungle Boy's time is maybe coming down the line. There's always so much room with someone that young. But I think Wardlow's time to shine is coming very soon. I think that he is getting pushed as a monster and will soon turn face because of his situation with Mox, and then will be one of the biggest baby faces in the company. So I think it's just a matter of time, and we've only seen a small portion of what that man is capable of doing. He's done a couple of like standing moonsaults and stuff like that. So it's worth just waiting. Just wait, because Wardlow's going to be even better.
He's an athletic monster. Like, he can do swantons, he can do moonsaults, he can throw a guy and toss him across the ring. Like, he can do it all, man.
Absolutely. So I'm glad he got a solid showing in the first tournament match, and it was a solid first match for the tournament. We then get a rundown from last week, which was a promo where Eddie Kingston just says that Moxley sold out. He said that he made millions of dollars for an entertainer while he was screwed over doing what he loves, wrestling. He makes him look at the title and says he's going to quit. So this was a solid promo from Kingston, but it was one that I must have gone after they didn't have time, so they wanted to make sure they got it on the show. I did think it was kind of strange to have this lesser quality Kingston promo on the show and then him cut a much better one later on, but
yeah, it felt like a little too much Kingston, didn't it? I was getting EWR vibes, like you booked him too much.
Worked hard to get his overness over this week.
Because he was on commentary too. He cut another promo, so that's like 2 Kingston promos and him on commentary. And I think that was about it. But like, that's a lot. And I get you want to build the match, but you got time, and you've been building the match for what, a month? So you're good, man. You don't need to shove him down our throats. I get that he's fresh to AEW, but still, like, let it be natural.
Yeah, again, it was a good promo, and it probably would have just been way better to have gotten it last week, but I think that it was and Rainbow Warrior 17 says he doesn't think that the promo was planned last week, and so it just sort of came off the cuff, which would make sense.
Probably.
That it was just one off the cuff, and they were like, "Damn, that was too good not to use." And I think that's a fair point. I do agree that every Eddie Kingston promo I think is solid enough to utilize. So if he's gonna go off the cuff after that, it was good. So can't complain too much. After this, we get Kenny Omega picking up the win over Sonny Kiss in less than 30 seconds. This match was very interesting because prior to the match, Kenny gets somewhat of an extravagant entrance. He has 2 women sweeping the ring entrance for him. So the cleaner is back, and he cleans up Sonny Kiss in short fashion, a 30-second matchup. And, I mean, it wasn't much to me. It was very interesting afterwards. Kenny just showcasing his new persona, kind of, because he's very cocky about the fact that he's won. He's almost sorry for Sonny Kiss, so.
Yeah, and like after the match, he gave him a really awkward hug that Sonny Kiss was not into. It feels like he's healing it up, like a bit, like with the intro and the sweeping girls and hugging his part. Like I think Big Joseph said it's more heel for him to raise his hand and hug him than it would have been for him to knock him out. And I kind of agree. It's subtle, but it's a great way to tell that story. Not only that, I do want to say this was supposed to be Joey Janela, and at first I put on Twitter like, man, I'm so bummed. I hope Sonny Kiss kills it though. And then when this happened, I was like, man, glad it wasn't Janela.
Yeah, Joey dodged a bullet for this one because I don't think this was a change in booking based upon who was in the matchup. I think that either way, one of these guys were going to get put in a position to lose relatively quick. And I'm not mad at it. I'm kind of with you in the fact that I prefer it to be not Joey. But yeah, I wouldn't have minded seeing Joey, and hopefully he's doing fine. Hopefully that's just a situation of him coming in contact with someone and them taking the extra precautions as they should. So I imagine he's good though.
Yeah.
But a very interesting segment nonetheless with the whole Sonny Kiss thing, the Kenny Omega
26 seconds, man. I mean, he wrecked him. There's no doubt about that. Like, Kenny Omega, I like it. I like it a lot that he's just all business, going straight for the finish, not fucking around, going back to his roots of just trying to dominate the singles competition. And I think this is a great way to showcase that.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And so I'm just glad that Kenny's on a different path, and I think we're going to see Kenny really on the upswing here. So it's an interesting story we're telling here, but it's different. After this, we have Tony Schiavone interviewing Orange Cassidy. He just asked him about his match with Cody, and Orange says that sometimes you gotta the calls don't go your way sometimes, and sometimes they do. He's asked how he's preparing for this match. Orange says we're on to Cincinnati, a Bill Belichick quote if you're unfamiliar with that. And Tony says that we're actually in Jacksonville next week, and Orange Cassidy says whatever. So
exactly what I expected from Orange Cassidy. I mean, it was fun. It was funny. Love Orange Cassidy. I did not get that reference, so thank you. And I what else are you expecting from Orange Cassidy? And it was a quick promo too.
Yeah, solid little promo. The same general situation with Orange Cassidy and building up his situation with Cody a little bit. And they continue to build it up with Dasha interviewing Cody after Cody arrives in a limo. Cody says he's not really surprised by the rematch, but he is surprised at how swiftly AEW booked it. She mentions Cody's weight gain, and he says that he just wants to do better against big guys like Lance Archer and Wardlow. So he's mentioning the fact that he's clearly going into the heavyweight division, despite the fact that it's a lightweight company. I thought that was an interesting statement to make against the company, and also just noting, like, I'm a light heavyweight who's beaten Archer and all this, and very interesting, straightforward promo. I don't think there was anything wrong with it. I just thought that it was different.
It was an interesting thing to mention, because when you have so many small guys, you kind of want to, I don't know, I feel like you want to ignore that. But like, he also mentioned himself as like the giant killer, so I don't think he's necessarily shying away from the fact that he's
Everyone in AEW
heavyweight.
Loves to give themselves nicknames, by the way.
I know they sure do. There's so many nicknames, man.
That's my first nitpick today.
But I mean, the giant killer is a nickname given to a lot of people.
He gave it to himself, though, is my problem.
Okay. True. But anyways, the point is, I'm kind of surprised they don't, like, hide the negatives and just pretend like, oh man, it doesn't matter that it's a small person company. But whatever.
A small person company. That's so hilarious. What a weird way to put it, AJ. They tower over all of us. But I think that it was a straightforward, honest statement, so that's cool. And it's a cool, like it's just kind of the real reason why he did it. Like, hey, I'm in this company, I'm wrestling the bigger guys in the company, I should be around the same weight as them. So good on him to make the effort, I guess, because it's not always easy to put on that extra weight, especially in terms of it being muscle. So interesting there. And we follow one promo up with yet another promo. Eddie Kingston is back. He says that Pentagon and Phoenix are in the tournament match and they're going to steal the show. They're the best luchadors in the world. Said later on, Butcher and the Blade are in the main event, and they will knock out all the tag teams and be in the tag team title match at the pay-per-view. And then he just goes on to cut his promo on Moxley and say that it's going to be an I Quit match, but he's never quit anything, and he's not going to quit now. So a really solid Kingston promo, I think. Yeah. I didn't like it, actually. I listened to this promo twice because I had watched part of the show last night, fell asleep, and rewatched this promo. I didn't really love it the first time I heard it, but the second time I heard it, I just liked it more. I don't really know if it was just I was tired or something, but yeah, I didn't mind this promo. I thought Kingston did a solid job, as he kind of always does. But
that's what I was gonna say, man. Like, Kingston on the mic always kills it. Like, I don't know if you can find a bad Kingston promo. Like, maybe mediocre at best, and that's saying something, because he cuts a lot of promos. But the dude can talk, and not only can he talk, he sounds like the way he looks. And I think that's like, you know how like Brock Lesnar does not sound like the way he looks and shit like that. Like Eddie Kingston looks like a gruff dude who hangs out around bars
He
and
looks
beats
like a
people up.
grimy, real guy, real tough
and
guy.
he sounds like one too, and so it makes it very believable whenever he cuts promos like these.
It's
And
also the funny thing about like him as a real life person being kind of
Yeah.
cool and like a decent down to earth guy. It's very interesting, but which
For
is
sure.
typical of like the typical New York Puerto Rican with that type of mentality. So it makes sense. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like living in New York and stuff like that. It makes sense for him to be that way of very rough and grimy on the outside, but then when you get to know him, like a loving teddy bear type of guy. So.
yeah,
Eddie Kingston there for you. And that leads up to the match with Rey Fenix and Pentagon, and they had a very,
Great.
very awesome match, a great television match. I was very entertained by this.
fantastic. This was honestly, I think this should have opened the show just because of how much of a banger it was. And like I feel like the best spots on the card are the main event and the opener. And if you had started with this, man, you would have started off on a hot show. And I don't mind the card placement. I'm just nitpicking like we always do. But god damn, this was incredible. They both brought it all out. I mean, Phoenix like got his arm broken by his brother, and you could tell Penta was like apprehensive at points, like, oh my god, I'm fucking up my brother so bad. And then he got that win with the flying, I don't know what even to call it, the flying Canadian destroyer.
Yeah.
Oh my god, like I was rooting for Penta. I'm not gonna lie, just because I'm a Penta guy, but like I didn't care. Like, whoever won.
It makes sense that they do sort of establish, or at least are working to establish Phoenix as a legitimate singles competitor. Because with Penta having that history in other companies as a legit singles competitor, I think this is a smart route to go, even though I would kind of with you prefer it the other way. This is the way to go because establishing Phoenix will then make it very easy to establish both of them as top tier, main event caliber superstars. And I think that that's very easily what's going to be the situation here. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited that Phoenix picks up the victory and is going to go on and have a very interesting match next week. So
Yeah, with Omega, right?
yeah, I believe that's what commentary said, unless I'm
Yeah,
totally
I
tripping,
wrote it
but-
down wrong. It's definitely Omega. Like Phoenix versus Omega, motherfucker. I'm so in.
It's going to be another solid one, unless Kenny wins in a minute and a half, and then I'll be complaining about
he
that
better
one.
not. Yeah, I'll be bitching so hard.
Because I feel like in the same vein of Ray beating Penta, if you have him have a solid 15-minute banger with Kenny, you have essentially established a solid upper mid card singles competitor. He kind of becomes like Trent level to me without having to do all the work Trent did, because he's just so good. You know what I mean? Like Phoenix, it doesn't take long to elevate. So
And hasn't Omega and Phoenix wrestled before for the Mega Championship on Dark, if I recall?
it maybe never happened. I feel like something might have happened where that match didn't occur, but I'm not totally sure. I think maybe one of them got injured, or I'm totally off. But I feel like that match didn't
you might be
actually
right.
happen. I know it was announced, but I think something maybe happened, and we could look it up here in a minute. But after this matchup, we have a replay of Trent destroying the arcade cabinet. The best friends say it was an accident. Miro says he was trying to be a nice guy, trying to be friends with everybody, and they broke that. So building up this comedy storyline. Hopefully it can go the same way the last Best Friends comedy storyline went.
Yeah, and ramp up, get more serious as it goes on. Because they really didn't do a whole lot here to make me care about this.
Yeah, no. Me
I mean,
either.
it was like what I wrote in the notes is exactly what it was. It's very, very small, very short, very nothing. And so like the best friends are kind of apologizing for breaking something by accident, and then Miro's pissed. It's like, what the fuck do I care about this for?
Yeah, kind of exactly where I'm at with it. Not super mad at it, and I do, because they did such a good job the last time they had a feud like this, them being the best friends, I do believe something can come of this that will be entertaining and good. I just don't know if you could do another parking lot brawl, so we'll have to see. Maybe they'll do like a video game brawl or something.
Yeah, an
but
arcade brawl.
I don't know how many of those you could do. when would it become played out for the best friends to just have hardcore matches as a tag team in random obscure places?
Yeah, that'd be weird. I don't know about that.
After this, Alex Marvez is standing by with Alex Reynolds, John Silver, and Colt Cabana. Reynolds says tonight is their biggest opportunity, and Mr. Brody has taught them to seize all of their opportunities. Cabana says that he's on a mission to win the AEW Championship and feels zero pressure. Silver says that the whole Dark Order is under pressure and he doesn't even like him, but he's going to win the AEW title. And Reynolds and Silver will win the tag team titles. So building up 3 guys who are bound to lose tonight. But as you should give the viewing audience some confidence in these competitors going into the matchup. So sure. And sure enough, Hangman picks up the victory over Colt in about 11 minutes. After the match, Dark Order pick up Colt, escort him to the back. This obviously sets up Hangman versus Wardlow in the semifinals. Going to be another very interesting match with very interesting styles clash there, similar to Omega and Phoenix, just being 2 different styles that I do want to see go together because I think they will create something very interesting. So I hope next week they give these both matches a decent amount of time and give all these guys some chance to shine going into what should be an important finals tournament match at the pay-per-view. So
I do want to shout out what somebody posted on Twitter, and I retweeted it because it was a great point. Really subtle storytelling with the Dark Order coming out and picking up Colt Cabana, and you see Hangman completely alone with no one to help him, no one to care about him. I thought that was really well, because at first I was like, why is the Dark Order giving a fuck about Colt Cabana? And then I realized, oh, it's because they want to show Hangman isolated. And
it's to show that everybody has somebody except Hangman.
Yeah.
Like literally in the grand
like
scheme
that.
of AEW, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who doesn't have somebody that's not Hangman. Joey Janela has somebody. Darby Allin has somebody. Like Will Hobbs has somebody. There are definitely a couple superstars who don't have somebody that I'm not thinking of. Most everyone has somebody but Hangman, and it's a little sad.
Yeah, it goes a long way in the story, and I
You
really
got
like
us,
where they're
Hangman.
going with it.
You always got South Dakota on your side, brother. After this, we get a Sammy G video package showing Sammy ripping pictures of Matt Hardy. One of these pictures, I believe, was Hardy outside of the Hardy compound, so just another reason people are assuming that matchup is coming, and that is the only way to save this. I think that it will save this. It very easily can save this, and guess what? If it sucks, just delete it. But I mean, I'm glad that they're finally going that route. But boy, is it incredible that it is damn near 6 months out of when we were telling them they should. Like,
yeah, definitely. It's like you said, though, this could definitely save it. This could definitely go miles and miles above and beyond what we were expecting. Because like I was saying last week, I don't care about this match, but I'm optimistic that they can do something with this feud. That they can actually save it and do something mind-blowing that I wasn't expecting. And that would definitely be it if they did the Hardy Compound match.
Yeah, exactly. And after this segment, we get Taz out to cut a promo. This was a very promo-heavy show. Taz is out to say that they have 2 problems, one being Will Hobbs. He made an offer to join him, and they've yet to hear from him. Hobbs better decide quickly. And number 2, Darby getting an opportunity at the TNT title. He said that he talked to Tony Khan, and Tony said that this only happened because Darby beat Ricky Starks. So I do like this element of explanation at the very least of why Darby's the one who's getting a title shot and why Ricky just narrowly missed out on the opportunity. A good promo here. It puts over Cage, puts over Starks, and just, I mean, it wasn't a whole lot. It didn't really set up nothing necessarily, but it does set up Darby versus Ricky again down the line. It keeps Ricky relevant, and Taz is a solid promo, so
I would really like it if they inserted Ricky Starks into the Cody Darby match. And if there's some way they can do that in the next couple weeks, like saying, give me another match with Darby and then you can beat Darby and then get in the match, that would be awesome. I feel like we haven't really seen a triple threat in AEW. I'm sure we have, but I'd be hard pressed to remember one.
Maybe a tag team one or something, but in terms of singles,
like
I don't necessarily know that we have gotten a triple threat. Couple fatal 4-ways, but
that could do a lot. Like that could be really cool, especially for a pay-per-view match. It would be something out of the realm of what we normally see. It would add more intrigue as to who's going to win the TNT title, because then that doesn't mean Cody has to take the loss either. You can still look good coming out of it. You could even put the belt on somebody like Ricky Starks, which is something that we've kind of wanted as a TNT champion, because he would be a great fit for that title, like no doubt about it. Brian Cage, don't know what's going on with him. I'm guessing we're leading to a match with Hobbs, but as of right now,
which is pretty sweet. If you ask me, like if that's where they are heading, because I do agree that we're not totally clear, but I mean, it's pretty clear that that match is going to be fun, and it should be a solid opportunity for Hobbs to really show that he's a solid guy. And I don't even think he's going to win. I would honestly assume that he's going to lose, but it will be like a glorified squash. It's not a squash. He's putting him over, but it's going to be a solid match for both guys. So I'm excited for that, and I'm excited that they're building that. But I'm really just excited to see Starks around. You know what I mean? Because he is he's an important guy, and to get that promo off for him, even as quick as it is and whatever, I would love to see a triple threat, because I am with you that adding anyone to a Cody match right now in terms of more people makes it more interesting, because Cody seems to be on a roll, and he's very hard to beat. He is the Tom Brady of AEW, if you will. So in terms of that, I would like to see another name added to that match, even if it is Orange Cassidy or however they go about it, because it's just so, it's not bad. I just don't really have any feeling that Darby is going to win. They've done nothing for me to believe that. And we'll get more into that in a little bit. The next segment was a lot of fun for me, but if you're not a fan of like comedy, tongue-in-cheek stuff, I guess you might not have loved this. MJF and Chris Jericho are having a steak dinner. They both play chicken about how they'd like their steak cooked, so going from medium rare to blue rare to just not cooked at all. And then Chris Jericho says there's going to be an inner circle town hall about whether MJF should join. They enter a musical number with dancers and all. We referenced this at the beginning of the show. I thought this was great. I thought it was very entertaining. I thought MJF and Jericho fit something like this so well. I know two people who probably didn't love it, but I don't know for sure. But I think that this was very entertaining and a good time, and who knows? You know what I mean? I get some people's frustration because they want their wrestling to be super serious all the time, but
I'm pretty sure one of those two people who you think didn't like it actually liked it a lot, surprisingly. I know, but goddamn, it was good. It's really hard not to like this. It was a verbatim copy of, not verbatim, but it was Sammy Davis Jr. and Frank Sinatra, their song "My Shadow and Me," and they were changing lyrics.
I hope you butchered that song title.
I did not. And they were making references like the Young Bucks and Chili's, because that's where they signed Chris Jericho, and Cody's a jackass and this and that. And goddamn, it was hilarious.
The references, everything. I thought it was so much fun. I get people's frustration if you really want wrestling to be serious, but in terms of comedy stuff, even I have seen so much worse, so much more cringy. Mm-hmm. This was fun, man. This is some stuff that if you're browsing through the channels, you're like, oh, what the hell? And you're going to stick to it to see what is going on. You might not love it, but I thought it was a solid segment, and it wasn't bad at all.
No, not at all. Chris Jericho is like a master of absurd, ridiculous promos. That's what I'll say. Like when it comes to things like, oh, that would be stupid. It would be stupid with anyone else, granted. But with Chris Jericho, he somehow manages to pull off these stupid, idiotic, bullshit promos and make them work.
Yeah. So, and I agree. Jericho always turns crazy. And I feel like that's his goal at this stage in his career, is to just do wild shit that you shouldn't be able to get over, and getting it over. And sure enough, he got some raw stakes over. So
yeah.
We then get Britt Baker taking on a new face, I believe, in Kylan King. Yeah. And this was a solid showing for Kylan King despite the short match. I mean, in a 4-minute match, how much are you going to get to show? But
exactly.
I think it was all right. And the one thing you get to show, I guess, is that you're not going to fuck up a 4-minute match. And she didn't do that, but a new face in the women's division, doing solid. I mean, the women generally don't get very long anyway, so asking this match to go much more than 4 minutes is a lot. Maybe 6, though, would have been nice, but
Yeah, I agree. That's my biggest gripe. It was short, but also you don't want to have Britt Baker go back in action and have a big contest. You kind of want to build her up, get her some squash matches, make her look good. Because in my opinion, she should be the next contender for the title. And so to get her some big, not big wins, but any kind of wins you can, rack them up, especially on Dynamite, would be good to do that as much as you can, as fast as you can. Because I personally would like to see Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker at Full Gear.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So, that kind of would appear to me where they're going, but I don't necessarily know for sure because they don't do a whole lot with their women. So,
No.
still something that they're working on, and hopefully they will continue to work on. Next week, we have Hangman set to take on Wardlow, Kenny Omega set to take on Phoenix. Tay Conti will be in action against Abaddon, so I'm excited to see both of these women.
That's a cool match.
In terms of talking about wanting to see women more often, thank you, AEW, for this one. I hope you give them some time. Maybe give us another women's match on top of it, just to really get that division going, you know what I mean?
For
and
sure.
then, obviously, the main event, you would assume Orange Cassidy taking on Cody in a Lumberjack TNT title match. This should be interesting. I think that there could be a way that they build some. They're obviously going to build a match off of this. I just don't necessarily know what.
They were saying it's a lumberjack match to make sure that Dark Order don't get involved, and that confused the hell out of me because I was like, I get that Brody hates him,
Well, technically they got involved last time. You know what I mean? Where Orange
did get
Cassidy
involved.
helped, and it in theory could have been part of what cost Orange the match because every second counts. I mean, they got involved, so I get it. And we haven't
guess
seen
I
much
get
of
it.
Mr. Brody at all since.
But that's the thing, exactly. Like he's not facing him at the pay per view. There's no rematch at the pay per view. It's not like he's
Maybe they're
in
just
this
gonna
feud
come
with
out
Cody.
and kill everybody. I don't know, man. And we
That'd be
also
cool,
have the
actually.
Inner Circle Town Hall set up for next week, which I think that's going to be dumb entertaining. Just everyone of the Inner Circle arguing back and forth of potentially adding MJF into this group is very entertaining. But I do question, like, what are they going to do with those two at the pay-per-view if they aren't doing anything yet, you know?
I don't know, man. I mean, they got another 2 weeks. Who knows? Maybe it's going to lead to. Maybe they're totally switching this up on us. Maybe MJF doesn't join the Inner Circle. Maybe it's an MJF versus Jericho match at Full Gear. But that would be kind of weird because it's like the two biggest heels you have.
You'd have to have turned one of them, you know what I mean, or something.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm not, and that's why I like it because I don't know where they're going, and I do imagine it's going to end up entertaining because it is Jericho. But next week should be a little bit more telling in that situation.
Yeah.
So a solid card for next week. Very good matches. Very interesting stuff going on. A lot of build going into the pay-per-view because at that point they will be we're 2 weeks out, so they got 2 more shows.
2 weeks out.
So next week will probably be the better one because that's usually how it goes before pay-per-views, which means next week's going to be a good one. After they run down the card for that and the pay-per-view, which I guess for the card on the pay-per-view, we have Moxley versus Kingston in an I Quit match, FTR versus To Be Decided, which we'll talk about here in a minute, and Matt Hardy versus Sammy G in the Elite Deletion match, and then obviously Darby taking on Cody or maybe Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
So, solid card for Full Gear nonetheless, even without those guys and without the Kenny and Hangman match. This is going to be probably the card of the year, and maybe that's why they felt comfortable with putting Mox versus Kingston on last because of the great stuff they have before. Like, Darby versus Cody was the banger of AEW so far, you know what I mean? At least the early days. Then we have FTR versus the Young Bucks, finally, banger. Kenny versus Hangman, banger. And Matt Hardy versus Sammy G in the Elite Deletion match, banger. Like, if they do everything the way it's supposed to be, Moxley versus Kingston in what will probably turn into a death match, banger. Like, this is, just running through that as a fan, this is a great card, and we're only halfway put together, so I'm hyped. Honestly.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a fantastic card. And you mentioned all those, and clearly we have something for MJF and Jericho, whatever that's going to be. But we have 2 main guys who have not even hinted at what they're going to do yet, but they're definitely going to do something.
Yeah. So and the big part about AEW is the top 4 matches, and they've kind of already got them. The rest of the match or the rest of the card will come together in short order. I do think that they are putting some of that together a little bit quickly, like Best Friends versus Miro and Kip, I imagine, will be on the pay-per-view, and that one
Yeah.
is one that's sort of just being tossed together, but will likely be a pre-show match. So I'm not mad at it, especially with some of these other long-term stories that we're finally getting some payoff for.
Yeah, definitely. It makes up for it by far.
Yeah, and after this, we get Steve-O with Darby Allin. Darby puts himself in a body bag and rolls
This is
down a
weird.
very high, well, not even that high, but high skateboard ramp. It was high, and it was whatever, I guess. This was a strange way to get prepared for your TNT title match, but he's getting prepared, so...
Yeah, I guess. I thought it was dumb, but I like seeing Steve-O, so I don't know. It was fine.
Yeah, it's good for the crossover, I guess, to an extent. But I
Yeah.
do think that it was kind of just dumb also. I think that Darby does... Like, I don't know, man. I thought we didn't love these Darby videos like this. We just liked him when he comes out and has great matches. So he will do that undoubtedly against Cody, but for right now, not into this. FTR joins comment, but I don't blame them for it either because of the celebrity crossover and just the cool jackass factor. Like, there will probably be more of these with guys like Bam and Knoxville, and the more of those guys you can get to cross over with Darby, like, it's another audience, you know what I mean? So it's smart at the end of the day. As stupid as it is, it's smart until he gets hurt.
Yeah, until he gets hurt. That's the key point, because he definitely will at some point.
Yes. And then we have FTR joining commentary for the main event tag team match, which has the Young Bucks picking up the victory over the Butcher and the Blade, Reynolds and Silver, and Private Party. This match was all right. The injury definitely did throw me off a little bit in the match, but I mean, and just the fact of how they didn't necessarily take care of it as quickly as they. I mean, they got him out of the match. I'm not saying they didn't, but they could have probably done a little bit more to take care of the guy in that circumstance. And I don't really hold a lot of blame over anybody for it, but I'm not gonna lie and say it didn't take me out of the match. After the match, a masked man hits the Bucks with a chair from behind, hits them with an assisted spiked pile driver. Then they Pillmanize Matt Jackson's leg. And the masked man is revealed to be none other than Tully Blanchard. So,
Yep. That was... I thought, like, that was weird. You could have just had him not have a mask. It's Tully Blanchard. They didn't see him. You could have just... Anyways. The match itself, to your point, it took me out of it, but it took me out of it by the end of the match, because it was like basically the end of the match by that point. So I wasn't like too... I thought it was
my
a
point
banger
is
for the
that
most part.
yes, I agree, but my point is that when you have such a great match, something like that, it just sort of takes it away a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like when the Undertaker fell on that camera guy and the Shawn Michaels
I thought
match,
you
and
were
you're
gonna
just
say
like, oh
when
my god,
when
did
the
he
Undertaker
die?
threw Mankind off the Hell in the Cell and almost died.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah, but I was just like, why are you going so extreme? But no, yes, I agree. And it didn't kill the match for me. It was just like a moment of like, what the fuck? But you're right, it was near the end, so it didn't kill the match. But as you were saying.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I like the match a lot. My biggest gripe with it, aside from the injury, was definitely that, of course, we knew who was going to win this match, and there was no doubt about it. What I did like was the post-match thing, where they, aside from the weird masking Tully Blanchard like he needs to be hidden, the fact that they took out his leg, I think that's cool. I think that shows one
Classic
that like FTR is
storytelling,
afraid.
bro.
Yeah, classic storytelling, and it shows FTR is afraid of the Young Bucks. They're afraid
Of the
that
high
they are
flying
the best in
of
the
what
world.
they do, yeah.
Yeah,
They're
and
trying to take
the-
away, they're trying to handicap what they specialize in, so they're admitting that specializing in that is harmful to them as champions, despite the fact that they always shit on the fact that people do flips. So, yeah, I'm very excited about the way that they're going about this storyline, especially because I hate the Young Bucks now, and I love to hate the Young Bucks, and so this new persona of them, I get to cheer for FTR.
And I'm gonna go against you. I'm all Young Bucks, brother.
That's
I
good.
love
That's
me
how
some
it
heel
should be.
Young
That's the
Bucks,
point
and-
of that's the point of it, right? That's what the wrestling is. It's supposed to be a dilemma like that, and I like it honestly, because I don't hate them as people, but I do hate the character that they're doing. But I could see how people enjoy it as well. It is
Yeah,
a little
I-
strange, kind of heel, but
I've always loved those smarmy assholes, man. Whenever, like, the Bullet Club, whenever they were those just two little goons fucking everything up and making everybody who likes
The
New
messed up
Japan
part is
furious.
generally I like that in wrestling, especially like the cocky attitude, and generally I like the Young Bucks, but when the Young Bucks do that, I hate it even more. And that's why that's the intention. It's so good, but
Yeah.
it's like for some reason when they do it and the way that, especially Matt, the way he just says stuff and is just such a prick. Even in this
for
match,
sure.
he said something about like we're the best in the world or something. And I
Yep.
was just like, yeah, you are, but fuck, man. But it was a solid showing, I think, and obviously sets up a great match and a storyline that I don't think is finished. I think this is the beginning of a kind of Kenny Okada situation where we're gonna get 3 or 4 nice
I
tag
hope
team
so.
matches from these two teams. I don't think we're just gonna have one great one at the pay-per-view. I think
Yeah,
they
no, I don't
know
either.
they know that this storyline can go for a while, and you could do it either way, really, at the pay-per-view. Like, that's a fun match that's going to be cool when we get to predict it, because who's going to win? You know?
Yeah, and I wouldn't even mind if they decide to hot potato the title just to continue this feud and give us more matches. I don't care what they do. I just want to see more of it.
Yeah, I would. I want to say I wouldn't mind, but the hot potatoing of the title with Cody, the TNT title, has made me hesitant to say that again, because I didn't mind that they went from Cody to Brody back to Cody in 6 weeks. But, man, I don't love it now because we're still stuck with Cody as champion, and I feel like
To
he's
be
got to be
fair.
champion for 3 or 4 more months before he could lose it again. Like, I feel like he's not dropping it anytime soon. Is my
But
problem.
to be fair, the tag titles, they held them for... Kenny and Hangman held them for like a year.
Oh, yeah. It's
And-
a different scenario with those titles. They've been
Yeah.
established. They've done a great job. And I wouldn't mind that either. I just am hesitant to say that because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mind them hot-shotting the TNT title until they hot-shotted it back to the guy who already had it. And then
Yeah,
I felt
yeah.
like, man, we're in for another 2-month reign at least. And I don't mind it. But when you're defending the title all the time, I do prefer to have some hope in your challengers.
Exactly, yeah.
But
But with the Young Bucks and FTR, you would have that hope.
yeah, no doubt, regardless of even after that. So, you good there, bro?
Yeah, I think there's a fire alarm going off.
Oh,
Maybe
man,
we
there's a
should wrap this
5-alarm
up.
fire. This is a hot episode. Yeah, we're finishing up AEW. We're finishing up. We talked about Dynamite. It seems like your fire's put out. But we're done with the show anyway. We've got basically everything covered. Go ahead, shout out your social media, AJ, and then go check on your house.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Big Match AJ, and you can follow me on Instagram at AJ the Fitzy.
Imagine if your house burned down because you had to plug your social media. You can find me on Twitter at All Elite Andy, on Instagram at Andrew Kazir. You can find the Facebook at facebook.com/AllElitePod, on Instagram at All Elite Everything. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/AllElitePodcast. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, brother. And we are on Twitter at All Elite Podcast. Thank you guys for continuing to support us, tuning in, and being a part of the conversation. It's always fun to have people joining us live on Twitter and everything else. So